Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another edition of Inside the Firm. I am Al Agreeable Gore. I'm here with Lance Problem Solving Cayko. We are here to entertain you today, but before we do, we will entertain your mind with some expansion ideas of how to take your architecture firm from not just being an architect, but also be a builder. If you are interested in that, which you should be, especially if you are a residential architecture firm, go to architectsguide2.com, which is architectsguide2.com. Check it out. Lance, what other sponsors do we have?
Arcat.com. With project conditions changing and limited time to get things done, it is good to have information at your fingertips. Arcat.com provides architects, engineers, spec writers, and contractors with the most comprehensive libraries of building product content and design so you can access it quickly and efficiently. Even better, my favorite part, Arcat.com is free to use and requires no registration. So visit today and access the information you need now. Last but certainly not least, I need you to go, this is what I want for Christmas, everybody.
Wow.
You head over to PellaLuxury.com today, /the firm, PellaLuxury.com /firm. Click on that link. Show the sponsors that we're sending traffic to them. Take a look at the world-class collection of brands that they have brought together to provide window and door solutions to the building industry and beyond. Duratherm and Riley are the true pioneers of industry. They are doing what no one else has done, building and designing beyond the status quo. These brands do not push beyond the limits. They set them. Explore PellaLuxury.com /the firm today. Very important. PellaLuxury.com /the firm today.
Check it out.
Check it out. Well, Al, would you like to know what is going to happen next year?
I would love to. That would be
okay.
Great.
So recently, my wife has followed this gentleman for a long time. His name is Brian Buffini. He is he is a Irish immigrant, Irish American immigrant. He still has a very slight Irish accent, but not too bad. And he does a forecast. He does Brian Buffini's bold predictions every year. It was about an hour long.
Wow, okay.
It's really good. It does backed up by data. Anybody who doesn't know who Brian Buffini is, he is a real estate mogul, but he's not one of these like cringy ones like Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone, if you're listening, I don't care. You're cringy. You just too much, too often.
My wife said that immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That he's cringy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the cringy part of it, it's like, I don't trust you immediately. Brian Buffini, slow, steady. He's like the Warren Buffett of real estate. So, wife and I sat down, watched this the other night, and then I was so fascinated with some of these charts and why it ties into architecture. Well, a lot of people who are listening to the show do single-family housing design work, whether they're remodels, additions, or brand new houses, and then it falls into the multifamily sector, commercial. Basically, every single time one of these developments happen, big or small, right, somebody's going to take out a loan. So the interest rates matter, and then therefore the forecast of everything matters, right? So the first thing I have 5 clips up here, 6 clips ready to show Al, and we'll all learn about it together. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see the charts and everything like that. But the first thing I wanted to talk about or show everybody was what caused the mortgage rate hike. So we know that the Fed raised interest rates, but like, what are interest rates? What are they at? Like 2.5% now? Like, what is the Fed? Not mortgage rates, but I'm talking about the rate that the Fed.
5 point.
No, we're not that high.
No, it's not mortgage rates. You just mean the Fed.
Fed funding rate.
I'll find it.
Yeah. So find that out because there's some interesting numbers that they talk about, like the fact that it spiked that it did, the mortgage rate spiked that they did, is actually abnormal.
4.5.
4.5. Okay. Yeah. Really? The federal funding rate is that much? No way. Federal
fund rate.
Reserve I'm going to look it up a different one.
Sure.
Different way. 4.4. You're right. It is up to 4.4. Okay. But either way, so the you'll see that there's a special number. So let's dive in here. This one is titled What Caused the Mortgage Rate Hike?
So let's talk about the 30-year mortgage rate for right now.
The 30-year fixed rate mortgage reached 20-year high. I mean, we have not seen the rapid increase in such a short duration of time. So to go from under 3% to above 7% within a short few months, I mean, this is a rapid increase, 20-year high, and key reason as to why the buyers are retreating. I would say for the most part, the buyer confidence about the real estate is there. It's just that they cannot afford a much higher interest rates.
Right.
So you saw the big spike there, right?
Yeah.
And then the next part talks about the spread between them, right? So if you have a funding rate of 4.4%,
Right.
and you're seeing mortgage rates, at one point they were like above 7.
Right. 6 3/4
Yeah.
recently, and in that we know of.
So that means it's getting closer to the normalcy, and that's what they're going to talk about next.
And we have a little graph here that talks about the abnormal spread between the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year mortgage. And maybe you can speak to that. We have a little bit of an anomaly going on right now.
We have a bizarre condition because normally the spread would be 2 percentage points. What it in essence means if government can borrow at 4%, mortgage rate should be 6%, 2 percentage point above that. But what's happening now is that the spread is much larger than normal. There's only 2 occurrences which this happened in recent history. One was when the Lehman Brothers went bankrupt during 2008. There was a massive panic in Wall Street. So for a few months, it was abnormal spread. And the second occurrence was when ugly COVID arrived to the country. We were locked down. People did not know about the future. Some degree of panic in the mortgage market, treasury market, so wider spread. But one thing to note is that this wide spread begins to diminish quickly over time, within, say, 3, 4, 5 months. But right now, it is abnormally high. Once this spread returns back to normal, mortgage rate could possibly be in the, say, under 6%. I think that's a possibility.
And we have a little...
Okay, so look at this, Al.
Yep.
At that chart.
Yep.
Look how short the duration is every time that
With
it's
the peak.
when it spikes.
Yeah. And the spread is already, I thought it was shooting down.
Like
in the last couple.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it is trending down already.
Yep.
So this is sort of for the reason I brought this up. I mean, first of all the information I think is fantastic. It's stuff that I honestly didn't know before. I figured, obviously knew that there was a certain spread. I didn't know what the typical spread was, and then the duration of the whole thing. So if you're trying to forecast into the future and think about, is the housing market going to crash? People keep saying that. Well, you'll see later on. There's another little clip I have where the number of sales crashed, technically by 15%, which means it is by then definition a crash because over 10% is a crash, just kind of across the board with all kinds of stuff, right?
Sure.
But the real positive, optimistic thing about this one is, oh my gosh, it's if the spread is going down now, like Al just said, then we're probably going to be on the bright side of things already.
Yes. I think so too. I think as well, if it's, let's just say 4.5 for argument's sake.
Yeah, not 4.4.
I think there'll be another 0.5, 50 basis points. And then I think there'll be 2.25s. So that's another 50. So 550 plus 2, 7.5. Not the worst, not 12.5.
Yes.
And then
not 12.5 like the 70s or even before that, like 20%.
Yep. And then literally pause through like the rest of summer into fall and then start coming down.
Yep. And so your thinking is going to bleed right into theirs.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Yep. And that's where we're headed next year. So the
Predictor Gore. That's your new name.
Yeah, that's his new name, right?
I'm agreeing with them who are agreeing with me. I'll keep my Al agreeable Gore.
Yep. Exactly. So the last little clip that we'll show is the forecast that kind of bleeds into what Al is pretty much saying and why the optimism seems correct. However, let's go back to pessimism.
Yeah.
And talk about inventory levels, right? So, like, that's another thing that I think the doom and gloom folks forget about when it comes to real estate and housing is like, well, what's the supply and demand about, right? And if you believe in, if you understand basic economics and you understand like supply and demand is everything, that's how you start the equation every time. So, this next clip is called Inventory Levels, and this probably won't shock anybody who's a regular listener or Al or Gore.
A hot topic we always get into, Lawrence, is inventory levels. So a lot of times when they screech these rates, inventory levels start to expand significantly and market times start to expand significantly. That's not exactly happening right now. So let's talk a little bit about inventory levels and what you're forecasting for 2023.
So first, on the raw number of counts of inventory available on the market today, it is very low, little over 1 million. Contrast this to back in the 2009-2010 period when we had 4 times more inventory, foreclosure crisis, job cuts, people are forced to sell their home. But today, there's a job creation. I know that in some industry, they're laying off workers, but other industries are hiring people. So overall, there's more job creation. So much less of a forced sale of a home. Consequently, there's a limited inventory and people who locked in at those 3% mortgage rates of the past few years, they're saying, oh, we love our mortgage rates. We don't want to give it up.
Right.
And it's 5 because we're at, let's just pretend
We're at 5. What?
Let's pretend we're at an inventory rate of new houses at 1 million. During 2007, that's a $4 million number right there.
Yeah.
Million, not dollar. So that's sorry. The chart, just for all the terrestrial listeners, there's a chart up right now that we have pulled up on YouTube. The title is Inventory of Homes Rising from Super Tight Conditions. Then there's the chart. And Al groaned as soon as he saw the chart because he's like, oh yeah, like there's the pessimism. I'll describe the chart. The chart from left to right is on a timeline of 2000 from year 2000 to 2022, and then the y-axis is in number of homes. So we spiked in 2008, call it, with around 4 million homes that were on the market, available for purchase. We are now, right now, 1.25.
Yeah, 1.25 million. So
should be around 2. at a minimum.
Well, yeah,
probably like 2.25.
Yeah,
if it would.
Exactly. Like there's a line that goes from over the last 2 decades of that chart straight across. It's 2 million. so what an interesting situation we're in. We have these high interest rates. You have high inflation. A lot of people would understand, and they'll talk about this in the next segment about like, what does inflation do to real estate? It's an asset. It's going to inflate it.
Yeah.
Like building we're sitting in right now went up 10% this last year. Again, year before that, way more than that, like 30%. It was crazy with all the money. And then you have this cherry on the top, which is, holy cow, the inventory of homes that are available to buy are below an average level. And then, just like you heard the gentleman say there on the clip, why would people decide to sell? They're not forced to sell their home right now because like jobs are still fairly abundant. The labor force participation's not as high as it could be because a lot of people still haven't went back to work. And that why would they? They're literally married to this very low interest rate. Why would they sell?
Yeah, but you want to know what's really concerning to me?
Plus all the regulations that.
Yeah, regulations, and then there's effects that we don't even know about, and honestly, may not be true. The hype effect, right? With with Twitter, with the internet, everything like that. There's these super cities, California, L.A., New York, Chicago. Like, hey, here's the cool place to be.
Oh,
well, those cities aren't going to grow and expand like they could in the 50s, 60s. There's just not enough space. There's too much regulation. There's too much NIMBY. There's too many NIMBY people.
Yeah.
So anyways, if you could go back to the chart, I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Let me go back
to it. The thing
that's
concerning is that from that 2008 level,
that
2008 level,
yeah.
like the line that you could draw down, and obviously there was more of a dip during the COVID times, but like it's still a trend.
Oh,
Like-
yeah. What Alex is saying is literally from 2008 to 2013, everything trended down from 4 million to 2 million.
In a rhythmic pattern.
Like, not in an abnormal looking pattern. And like, so if you're watching on YouTube and you look at this chart, then it extends into a further, like, there's nothing abnormal about this chart because there's no big spike in either direction.
Yep.
It just looks pretty logarithmic.
And if you look at the left side of the graph too, you see it's trending up, but it's not as rhythmic and it's more, I don't know, varied.
Yeah.
And 2000 to 2005, the early days of social media. I think some of this rhythm is also coming from, you've heard it from real estate agents, like, oh, this is the time you sell. This is like
FOMO on both sides of the coin.
no, but like these months.
Oh,
And everyone like, this is when you get the best price.
Interesting.
And
like, yep, you don't put your house on the market until March, and then you do not put your house on the market until during November to December.
Because you see the uniformity
Yeah.
there. Like it's kind of interesting. And it's just this side benefit of like this side trend of like,
Very
okay, the internet, coalescing in ideas
Man,
and stuff like that.
I did not expect this kind of insight. Very good, Gore. Very good. That's why you're on the show. Okay. So next segment here is insights on housing affordability. I can bet you can guess what they're going to talk about, which makes the housing also not affordable as it pertains to regulation.
What are your insights on the state of housing affordability?
The prior chart, which shows the home construction levels being down, especially in California, which is the reason why we are seeing the much lower inventory and much higher prices in California compared to other states. So one has to really address about how do you get more builders to build with less regulation. Now, we also have to care about what's the right balance with the environmental issues, but we cannot be excessive in restricting supply. But related to the affordability is that with much higher mortgage rate, just punch the number into the mortgage calculator. All high school curriculum actually include mandatory punching into the mortgage calculator so people will be prepared in the future about changes in mortgage rate and mortgage payment. But once one do that, for a middle income family to buy a middle priced home in America, it used to be people earning $50,000, $60,000 income. Well, they could buy a starter home. That was possible in America. Not today. Higher mortgage rate is implying that one needs about $85,000 in income to buy a starter home. So this is really the reason why we are seeing decline in pending contracts.
Holy cow! If you're watching on YouTube, I hope you zoomed into Al's face. I was just awesome to watch.
So, a lot of our staff is roughly a decade younger than us.
Yeah.
Plus or minus. And one of the comments this week was, I don't know anyone of their friends that has purchased a house without help from their parents. And I didn't chime in or anything because I was like, well, I know Lance and I did, but we're different. It's just a decade, right? And it was different.
Like that we did without our parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
But like, if I said that, I should have followed up like, oh, the first house I bought was $185 and it's now $380 if you want to buy it.
Literally.
Yes.
Which is that's insanity.
Yeah.
And Al bought that house in 2013, and so 9 years later. Yeah.
Yep. But if you go back to the graph, what you needed to make hovered for the last 20 years between literally 40
and 60
and didn't even touch 60, and then in 2022 it shot up to 85.
And if we're being completely honest, Al and I were right in that range, 40 to 60K, back in the day. You know, I mean, just at a base salary sort of thing. Without dividends and all that stuff. So yeah, it's tough. And now on the right hand side of the screen of this chart, it's so in 2022 you need to be making over 80K. So it went from top of 60K in one year. Everybody knows, longtime listeners know what we harped on a lot. Like, yeah, you can't print 100% of the money ever in existence in a 20-month period and not expect this to happen. It is what it is.
What if they did expect it to happen?
Well, yeah. Now he's got his tinfoil hat on. Pretty crazy though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I thought the other chart that I was watching, Al, that you didn't like Is it up here? Oh, there it is the single family housing starts.
Yeah.
So dismal looking. Like from 2009, that was the low point, obviously. They started trending up per year. They're in 500,000. I don't even know how to read that.
Yeah, no, you're correct. So
Okay.
it used to be 500,000. Now it's at 1 million. It probably, and then the peak in 2005 was 1.75 million.
Yeah. So we're
750,000 more per year.
But that's a critical point. Like Al just said, 2005 we had just in that year there was 1.5 million housing starts. 18, almost 2 decades later, when we are seeing we need more inventory, it's not there. It's right at 1 million.
Yeah. You know what's so crazy?
This isn't real. This way we're not until the supply is increased. I'm sorry, like we are not solving this problem.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
So you know what this proves to me though?
What?
The housing crash in 2008, which is 3 years past the peak, which was already came down to lower than now, wasn't an over amount of supply.
Yeah.
It was an over amount of lending.
Yes. There was too much money.
Yeah.
Yep. Watch the Big Short if you don't know. Second to the last one here is so now we're gonna move into positive stuff.
Oh yeah.
We've ripped the Band-Aid off with all the truth, but now we're gonna put a new Band-Aid on that's sparkly. So let's look at what housing prices are gonna forecast for the next year.
Let's talk about housing prices, and I'd like to talk about the near term, and then a little bit. Let's get out a few years and talk about the long term. Again, you shared at the National Association of Realtors NAR annual some stats here and a wonderful graph I'd love you to talk to. But basically, people expect, and there's a lot of articles. I just read something yesterday, prepare for housing Armageddon, housing capitulation. There's buyers who are waiting and saying, I'm just waiting until the prices come down 25% in order to buy. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit about what's happened the last few years and what's happened in the next few years to come.
First on the data, data is indicating that this year, once all the numbers are in, that median home price will be roughly 10% above last year. So people who bought last year certainly is getting gain. I think the key question is, what about those people who bought in spring and summer and now seeing some price decline?
Right.
Yes, there are some price decline in some markets, and also there are some seasonal factors in it. But as one looks back, the long-term trend, people have to wonder, what was the median price of a home back in 1970, 1980? So believe it or not, in 1970, if you don't believe it, talk to your grandmother and they will explain. It was $23,000 for a typical home.
Right.
And now today's median home prices are closer to 320, 350,000.
Yeah.
So it just rises. I mean, inflation is a terrible thing for every day, but some asset valuations steadily rise. Home is one of these largest asset most middle class families hold on to. And going into the future, I mean, no one can know exactly what the future is, but it's not unreasonable to assume, prices will be rising because of inflation. When there is an inflation, people get higher paycheck, not an improvement necessarily in standard of living, but just to catch up on the inflation.
Right.
Did you love that, Al? The whole $23,000 in 1970 for a house, and then what happened in 1971? Oh yeah, we went off the gold standard.
That doesn't have any
Started printing
relation. Like, totally different, connected. One is money, one is houses. I don't know how you're even connecting.
I don't know. I heard you have to have money to buy houses.
Yeah. Misinformation.
Yep, fake news. We're gonna get flagged on everything. Okay, so last clip of the day here is there's a 2023 and 2024 housing forecast. I'm interested to hear from Al, obviously, what because his prediction, I think he's holding fast to the April something prediction next year or something.
April is kind of the bottom of the pain.
There you go. We'll see if that's true.
So 2022, just to wrap it up, 10% when it's all said and done, January through December, so the asset went up 10%, and that's with an interest rate that went from below 4 to above 7. 2023, in our discussions, you've mentioned, unit sales will come down about 7%, but that you're expecting prices to be basically flat or maybe even increase 1%. And then in 2020, go ahead.
It's a nationwide forecast, which means that roughly half of the country will see some gain,
Yeah.
and other half of the country could see some mild decline.
Sure.
Now, only exception of this forecast is I worry about San Francisco area because it's so expensive. I would not be surprised if San Francisco, Oakland region would see 15% price decline, but that would be the one exception.
Yeah.
Most other part of the country, stable prices in essence.
Yeah, and even San Diego, like we are, we've become the garden spot. And a lot of Northern California people came down here, but I would also say, we had a 19% increase, and that's bound to level off somewhat. And it's like, okay, we might see 3, 4, 5 points drop. So the areas where they had the highest appreciation, unless there's unusual market conditions, people, moving there. We're seeing that in the obvious transplant markets are Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Arizona. Low tax states are Nevada. Those are prospering. And there continues to be price pressures because people are moving from expensive areas. Like Californians go out to Texas and they're still like, hey, this looks like a good deal. They go to Tennessee. New Yorkers go to Tennessee and they're like, I'll take 2. And so not great for the locals, but I like I said, you're as people are preparing for the year because they're hearing all this doom and gloom, Lawrence, just let's make it clear. We're seeing a drop off in sales. So, and again, we'll talk about this, a 15% drop in the number of transactions this year, overall a 10% price increase. Next year, about a 7% drop in overall transactions, but pretty much hold steady on a national level. And then for 2024, you're forecasting a 10% increase in sales and a 5% increase in prices.
I think by 2024, we will definitely have lower mortgage rates. All this action by the Federal Reserve to contain inflation, even if it works halfway, means we will have inflation rate of 4 or 5%. That means lower mortgage rates. Again, the big picture is when there is high inflation, high mortgage rates.
Mm-hmm.
Low inflation, low mortgage rates.
Yeah.
So the directional impact is overall for lower interest rates, and that always fuels home buying. So home buying, steady, with 10% growth, those are nice gains.
Yes.
I think the Fed thinks that home pricing and everything should come down quickly, but they can't control the amount of inventory.
Yeah. Big problem.
Yeah.
Big problem. Yeah. Well, let's see. We are joined finally.
Wow.
Thank goodness.
Superstar.
He's back. Nick with Nick Reads.
Hello, best friends. I hope you all had a great week this week. A reading or 2. Sometimes a player has to just sit back and think it over. Planning your next move is always more important than just moving recklessly. Plan, then execute. Mr. Ice-T. Without the passion of the mind, the passion of the soul spins out of control. Chasing first this thing, and then that. Pursuing this appetite, and then that. Being consumed by this obsession, and then that. Our passions can consume us until our life force is spent, leaving a shell, a burnt-out corpus. Some become depressed. Others, like many in life, retire and simply die. Just get old. Simply glad to be left to rest, doing nothing of importance, content to be living, no matter how little living they're actually doing. Michael E. Gerber, E-Myth Mastery. Merry Christmas. And toodles!
Check this up. Thought he was
Are you
just
reading the E-Myth again?
I'm reading E-Myth Mastery
Yeah.
and E-Myth for Architects.
Ooh.
Not the original E-Myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that passion of the mind versus passion of the soul, and keep that in mind because the next read he'll talk about if you have a passion of the soul but not a passion of the mind.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, with that, let's bring down the crew, Al.
Yep. Okay. Is everyone ready? Yeah. Question number 1. according to table 722.4.1, parentheses 1 of the IBC, if you don't remember that table, a 3.8-inch thick clay or shale solid brick has a fire rating of how many hours? So 3.8-inch thick brick. How many hours fire rating does it have? A, 1. These are all in hours. B, 2, C, 3, D, 4. This is collusion, Tyler. You looked this up last week.
I feel like I need you to read it again.
3.8-inch thick brick.
Okay.
What's the fire rating according to the IBC? Standard brick. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Full solid brick. A, 1 hour. B, 2 hours. 3, 3, D, 4.
C3, yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Reveal them. What do you got? C, A. B, 2 hours.
Oh, I almost went with that.
Yep.
Can I use that?
All right. According to the same table, a hollow brick that is unfilled is blank. And you'll have to insert one of these words to meet the same 2-hour rating. It's blank. Is it A, thinner? So this is a hollow unfilled brick. Is it B, thicker? C, the same thickness? Or D, lighter?
To match what a real brick is?
Okay, the same 2-hour rating.
Gotcha.
This is a hollow brick and it's unfilled. Like it doesn't have mortar in the filling. Is it thinner, thicker, the same thickness, or lighter? Three, two, one, yes. B. Incorrect.
Wow.
Incorrect. It's 3.4 instead of 3.8. So it didn't have anything to do with thinner, thicker, or lighter. It just happens to be thinner. And the only thing I could think was not intuitive is that what if the heat rating transfers less? It's 3.
Just because of the density, maybe? Like
Yeah.
it might be thinner, but we're more dense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Weird. Tricky.
Tricky.
What do we? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 3. What is the name of the pipe that leads to the lowest level of drawing? Sorry. Let me repeat that. That was a typo. Okay. Number 3. What is the name of the pipe that leads to the lowest level of drain pipe? A, low pipe. B, lowest pipe. C, drain pipe. D, lead pipe. All right, we got all the answers. What do you got? D. D. Correct. Wow. Correct. Gresh got it. Isn't that a silly one? What do we got for scores?
0.
Oh,
Wow,
one.
just one.
Yeah.
What is the number 4? What is the unit of measurement that corresponds to the insulating value of clothing needed to maintain a person in comfort sitting at rest in a room at 70 degrees? You remember this? Like we're studying this? Seriously? I did not. I do not remember this part. Yeah. Okay. The hint is we're assuming they're in business clothing. Is it A, PT value, B, R value, C, 1 CLO, D, BTO? What'd you get, Coach? D. Correct answer, C. Alex Gresh is the winner. One clothing.
CLO. Nice.
That is the silliest thing. Okay.
All right, that's it.
That's it. If you like this episode, you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. We'll see you next week.